question of how Emerson has inspired me as a person, scholar, and teacher is one that I've reflected on a lot recently. I think I'd like to start with a passage from Emerson. He writes in Self-Reliance, "Character teaches us above our wills." Very obscure. And I really thought about this aphorism for a long time. And what Emerson means by character is the force, the combined force of all that a person has done and acted and written over the course of their lifetime up to that point. And so what he's talking about is, when he talks about character, he's also meaning about his own written character, the characters on the page. And I really feel like reading Emerson has been this amazing journey for me. I started, I think, because I was looking for a home in the American literary tradition. I come from a very, very different background. My mother is Japanese American. She was born in California and was interned in post in Arizona during World War II. And she came east. She was helped by missionaries to be educated in Cambridge, and then mentored and went to Radcliffe and Harvard Medical School, where she met my father, who is Jewish and is from Boston. So I have this kind of long-standing sense of connections to the Boston area, but also this remoteness from the American tradition. And so I think that my early work in graduate school, I was really interested in how Emerson helps in my early work, helped African Americans to engage a sense of the tradition. I focused on Martin Luther King Jr., who talked about nonconformity in Self-Reliance as a way of protesting racism, and W. Du Bois's central concept of double consciousness as a kind of trope of American identity. And I really learned a lot there about how these writers worked to find a place in the American tradition. I had wonderful teachers that at some point I would love to talk about, wonderful Emersonians, and including Stanley Cavell, who had this, they're just these kind of vivid memories I have of moments in the classroom where once he said, "Why do you think in experience Emerson says, 'oh no,' instead of 'oh,' when he has his kind of vision of this new yet unapproachable America?" And I've thought about that question my whole life. Why does he say, "oh no"? Because what's scary about it? And Sack Van Berkovich was also a fantastic Emersonian who taught me the rigors of kind of substantive, clear writing, very much in the spirit of Emerson. And Larry Buell, who actually, in his book Emerson, first led me to the realization that Emerson had this very, very strong affinity with Buddhists. It's a kind of train of thought that I've pursued again more recently, reading books, for example, by John Rudy. He wrote a book on Emerson and Zen Buddhism, and I'm very interested in Makaguchi and the connections with Emerson and with Dewey. And it's brought me to this sudden realization that my love of Emerson as a kind of consoler and companion has not been random at all. And then I'm really discovering the fact that, for example, Emerson's writings were translated in Japan in the late 19th century. It's very, very early. So this is something that adds to meaning for me as a scholar and as a person. And I'd like to bring that to bear on my teaching. I think that many, many students need Emerson, basically, because he does represent this very, very important tradition. His wisdom is inexhaustible, and he's very, very hopeful. He's not naive, and I think that in my experience, teaching Emerson has been one of the joys of my profession.